So what I want to do here is have a discussion about Batman and Superman teaming up to fight the Undead. And what I'm hoping is that at the end of the story, you'll have had a little bit of fun, and at the very least, you might find this a series worth checking out. So Batman and Superman teaming up to fight the Undead actually comes out of a series called Batman Confidential. And what this was a series of publications released between 2006 and 2011 and served to provide short stories from various writers and artists as a proving ground to demonstrate their art and storytelling, but to also provide these stories as an explanation of Batman's exploits following the events of Batman Year One by Frank Miller, which rebooted his origins after Crisis on Infinite Earths and established the various foes and allies that he discovered and who would eventually become mainstays in his comics. Written by Kevin Van Hook and drawn by Tom Mandrake, Batman vs. the Undead, like all of the Batman Confidential stories, is self-contained and initially opens with Bruce Wayne in New Orleans, Louisiana. Being in the city due to the unveiling of a Wayne Foundation Children's Hospital, while Bruce Wayne gives his speech, the story continues his monologue, but also shows someone smashing into one of the family tombs and removing a casket with a perfectly preserved body inside. Transitioning to later in the night, Bruce Wayne reveals that in addition to attending the ceremony for the Wayne Foundation Children's Hospital, he's also tracking a man named Herbert Combs. Now to sidetrack for a second, Herbert Combs is indicated to have been an inmate that escaped Arkham Asylum at some point, but he only appears in this series, and so he's largely a one-off created explicitly for this miniseries. Now while monitoring the city and looking for a place to start, Batman notices another person jumping from the rooftops onto the streets below. Now picking up with a meeting between Herbert Combs and a museum curator named Ghizzarelli, the two of them are discussing a business arrangement in which Herbert appears to be funding the curator's museum. As Ghizzarelli explains, he had collected multiple corpses of deceased criminals from Germany and other parts of the world, after which he preserved and put them on display as a kind of grotesque museum to entertain the uneducated members of the city. As an example, one of the specimens collected is the corpse of a 3,000-year-old timber wolf from northern Mexico. Some of the other specimens include a Mexican family that was discovered deceased while sitting in an upright position, indicating that they had died suddenly with no known causes. However, in the midst of continuing his explanation of the exhibits, Herbert Combs uses an extendable knife to stab Ghizzarelli through the back of the head, killing him in the process. Now transitioning back to Batman in his pursuit of the unnamed man, after catching up with him, we learn that this is someone named Demeter. As another character created and introduced in this story, Demeter is a vampire who is part of the situation for unknown reasons. Now the conversation between Batman and Demeter indicates that the two of them have met before and that Bruce Wayne asks if Demeter has been keeping his thirst under control. But as far as my research has turned up, there's no indication that Demeter has ever been an extended part of Batman's continuity. But regardless, the purpose behind Demeter being here is that, like Bruce, he's been tracking Herbert Combs since his release from Arkham. From here, the insanity of Combs becomes apparent when the story shows him looking through a stack of papers while talking with someone named Andy and discussing his intention to beef up the security of the museum and effectively take it over. During a study of the schematics, a silent alarm is triggered by both Batman and Demeter, after which it's revealed that Andy is dead and hanging on the wall. Removing Andy's head from his body, Combs begins to perform a ritual in which he seems to be returning the souls of the dead to their decayed bodies in the museum. As a result, while Batman and Demeter make their way through the building in their search for Combs, the two are suddenly set upon by multiple zombies, both human and animal. Working together and taking them down almost immediately, it's revealed that these undead were only animated temporarily, most likely as a distraction for Combs to make his escape. At the same time, because Demeter is a vampire and with the sun rising in the next several minutes, in order to keep from suffering exposure and possibly dying as a result, he leaves Batman to deal with Combs until night falls and he can assist once more. Now jumping back to Combs, we find him in the bayou of Louisiana, visiting a local voodoo priest named Mama Azili. According to the conversation between the two, Mama Azili had provided Combs with the means to resurrect the dead, and the enchantment that he had used was provided as a sample of sorts, and that he wouldn't resurrect an army, but bring back enough to prove that Mama Azili's magic was legitimate. Switching back to Batman, as he investigates the museum office of the now deceased Ghizzarelli, he discovers that in addition to both himself and Combs conversing by email, Combs had been using their connection to gain access to Mama Azili. While searching for Combs during the time in which he was performing the enchantment, Bruce reveals that he had overheard the name Azili combined with the name Aoife. While the name Azili is meaningless, the name Aoife itself means the goddess of vengeance and destruction, indicating that when the two are put together, it invokes the goddess Aoife as a means to enhance the powers of Azili, allowing for the resurrection of an army of the dead. And so because this would present a circumstance beyond his ability to deal with on his own, While maintaining his cover as Bruce Wayne during a gala of sorts in the French Quarter, Batman takes a moment to contact Clark Kent, informing him that the transpiring events are more than he can handle on his own. Agreeing to meet him, Clark states that he can fly down to Louisiana the following day in order to help in dealing with the problem. Now joining back with Demeter, we find him traveling to a local jail holding a friend named Janko who suffers from lycanthropy, also known as being a werewolf. Because Batman is aware of the company that Demeter keeps, his detective work has led him to the conclusion that as a vampire, Demeter would inevitably seek out Janko for the purpose of recruiting aid in the same capacity that Batman had recruited Superman. Transitioning to the inside of the jail, because Janko loses self-control whenever he's exposed to the full moon and because tonight is a full moon night, during his incarceration, he transforms into a werewolf. Ripping open the cell door and preparing to attack the guard, the scene is met by both Demeter, his girlfriend, and Batman, who band together for the purpose of bringing Janko under their control. However, the three fail to succeed as he jumps out of a window, which reveals that the building is being set upon by a series of zombies. Teaming up with Demeter and Janko, Batman does what he can to take the zombies head-on without being infected in the process. At the same time though, Batman also gives us some perspective of the group that he's fighting with. From his view, the afflictions of vampirism of Demeter and the lycanthropy of Janko are forcing them to struggle to maintain their composure during the intense situation unfolding, meaning that they're walking a knife's edge with the potential of falling over the edge and becoming just as dangerous as the enemies they face. However, the concern of Batman is assuaged when Superman arrives to fight alongside everyone. A problem arises though in that during the battle with the zombies, it's revealed that Superman's powers of heat vision are useless against the zombies for two reasons. The first is because damage to their physical bodies does not stop the function of their brain, and the second is that the zombies are magically protected, meaning that Superman cannot damage magic. Using his strength, Clark smashes the ground and opens a fissure which swallows the zombies as they mindlessly walk forward and into the ravine. In addition to this, because Batman has seen Demeter use his magic before, he calls on Demeter to use his belief in voodoo as a way to clear out the zombie horde. Agreeing to do so after being screamed at by Batman and Superman, Demeter's use of voodoo magic cuts a connection between Combs and the zombies. Once the conflict is finished though, it's discovered that Demeter's girlfriend Liv has been kidnapped once Dr. Fate appears and informs the group that they have to travel to a place called Corto, Maltese, a small island off the coast of South America, in an effort to get her back. Furthermore, Dr. Fate informs Superman that because his powers are useless against magic and that his laser vision, super strength, and various other abilities can be nullified by sorcery, at the end of all of this, he will end up joining the dead, but also that Dr. Fate himself cannot join the group in their efforts to rescue Liv as his brand of magic is incapable of overcoming or neutralizing the various black magics being used. Now transitioning to Corto Maltese, we join Mama Azalea and Combs as they work to resurrect the dead. As she explains, those who had died recently are relatively easy to resurrect, and the hardest ones to bring back are those who have died a long time ago. Revealing these particular individuals, we find that the dead dating all the way back to the soldiers of the famed conquistadors of Hernan Cortez are being resurrected along with all manner of beasts. However, the true power of black magic that Mama Azalea is calling upon comes from the newly dead, something that she gains by sacrificing a young man to a pit full of snakes. Organizing a plan for themselves, we join Batman as he arrives in the middle of the ritual and begins attacking the various zombies. But while this happens, Mama Azalea has Batman distracted and a fire circle is established, keeping Batman out but allowing them to continue. Picking up with both Superman and Demeter, we find him traveling to another location within Corto Maltese to visit a witch named Geneva, who is the individual that seems to have provided Demeter with the various forms of magic that he currently uses. Establishing that Mama Azalea is using the cemetery as a way to resurrect zombies in order to keep Batman and his allies away, the true motives of her actions are to bring back a powerful shaman who can raise an army of the dead for the purpose of world domination, led by Combs, and the only way to counter the magic is to provide a powerful being of their own who can defeat the shaman in question. And so with Batman having retreated due to his inability to penetrate the fire circle, the story focuses on Mama Azalea and Combs several hours later as the two succeed in digging up the shaman from a grave deep in the ground, while Liz is made to watch the events unfold. During the resurrection process, we're told that for his entire adult life, Herbert Combs has dedicated his time to focusing on his infatuation with the dead. For him, the possibility of becoming the ruler of the world by way of controlling an army of the dead has been the core of everything he's been working for since his obsession began, and while he allows himself a brief moment of celebration, at the 11th hour, we learn that this mummy is not wrapping the body of a long-dead shaman and instead is wrapping Superman himself. While this line of logic is flimsy to say the least, with Batman making his move by confronting Herbert Combs alongside Geneva and Demeter, it's revealed that Geneva uses white magic which seems to be stronger than Mama Azili, and that she was the one that had placed Superman into the ground to impersonate the shaman. Furthermore, with Mama Azili refusing to accept death at the hands of Geneva or anyone else, she invokes immolation, sacrificing herself in the process, proclaiming that she will join the goddess of destruction and vengeance. And so as the story comes to an end, where Superman offers to fly Batman back to Gotham on his way to taking Herbert Combs to prison, after Bruce declines intending to take the Wayne Foundation jet back home, Superman comments that Batman should not spend too long in this place, something that's compounded on when Batman reveals that the situation of zombies, monsters, and voodoo magic has pushed its sanity to its breaking points, and that spending too much time here would send him over the edge. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.